don't underestimate the difference between legacy SaaS and AI native. Having gone through a similar transition ourselves, it's a very different mindset, a very different way to build, an entirely different set of incentives.
Building great experiences, revolutionize your business. Building great experiences, innovative strategies. Building great experiences, elevate for your customers. Like, comment, and subscribe.
Hey folks, welcome to another episode of the Building Great Experiences podcast. I'm Drew, and with me I have my friend, former colleague, Justin O'Connor. Justin and I met a couple years ago. We worked together at our former employer, and Justin is now an AI leader at KPMG within their advisory practice, and is also building a pretty cool product that's focused on developer experience, and it's AI powered. And so today what we're going to be talking about is a couple different things, but more broadly, like there's this idea of like, what is a 10x developer? And how is AI enabling developers to do more, deliver more value to the business and do it more efficiently, but be able to collaborate with each other? It's kind of all things around developer experience in the age of AI. And then also, Justin and I talk a lot. When we talk about where AI is going. Like, how is this all going to shake out? Like, what does the future look like? And so he's got some really cool perspective that I'm excited to let you guys hear. Justin, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks a lot, Drew. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, for sure. So always, in tradition of the episode of the podcast, I always do origin stories because I love to let people like get to know you a little bit more. Like, who are you? Why do you do what you do? How'd you get into this? Maybe kind of give us, not the full like when I was born and but like where'd you come from?
It's good that you say that because my wife tells me I like that when people say origin story, I go back to like I was born. That's the very first place I start. So no, I live here in Charlotte, North Carolina, and when I started in my career, I actually wasn't in tech at all. I sort of stumbled into this just based out of frustration of like how it actually is to work in enterprise environments. So I started my career in banking. So a lot of like issues there with like, the way that we worked and started automating things in like Excel and Word and stuff like that. And then ultimately ended up working for KPMG on the client side doing delivery within our risk advisory practice. So I was working with top 10 banks in the US. And that's where I kind of developed my I'm like, okay, there's maybe better ways to do this, both on not just on the client side, but also on the KPMG delivery side. Like there's all these opportunities to do things better. So I developed a brand for like, hey, Justin can come in, he can help us streamline our delivery and help our teams work better together and automate processes and then show up at our client and show them how we're different and we're thinking bigger than maybe the scope of the work that we're doing and how we can collaborate with them to solve maybe even larger problems or other problems they didn't even think that they had scoped for a project. So I did that. The way I got into tech was I was on a 2-year engagement with a top 10 bank, and I was on a work stream where it's called doc gathering. Essentially, the job was monitor shared drives. When documents land there, look at the attributes of that document, put them in the right folder for another team to go process. Not a great use of my time. So I automated that process and I ran it for a week, 2 weeks. And Al Mayo, the guy who was on the work stream, I was like, hey, Al, I haven't been working for 2 weeks. He's like, what are you talking about? You're like the best ever at this job. And I'm like, no, I automated this weeks ago. I've been monitoring it to make sure it works, but I'm confident now that there's really no reason for me to be doing this. We should be allocating me somewhere else. And he's like, well, what do you want to do? I was like, what do you want me to do? He said, I don't know. If this job's getting done, then I'm happy. I just started investing all of my time in learning how to do true developments, learning Python, learning Go, like how to automate back office processes with more mature languages. And then I realized I want to be in tech. So I was going to leave KPMG back in 2017 to go join an RPA firm after a rotation internally, working with some government contract companies and telecommunication companies. And then I decided, then the CTO of KPMG Advisory came to me and said, hey, I've heard great things about you. We're building the advisory cloud. It's going to be the cloud that we use for all of advisory. I want you to be a part of that journey and help me to make this happen. And that's where I cut my teeth in the cloud for the next half a decade. And then ultimately started working with you at our past employer, where I was leading the cloud practice as well as eventually our software engineering practice as all of this AI stuff was evolving. I was one of the early people in our team to be thinking about, hey, how can we start to leverage these tools and doing conversations with our teams and extended community about AI and how they can start to leverage this as a developer developer tool. Yeah, and now, as you said, I'm back at KPMG, leading agent strategy for advisory and technical delivery. It's, advisory is one of three pieces of the firm. It's 40% of our revenue, about $40 billion, 100,000 employees with hundreds of Fortune 500 clients. So there's a massive mandate right now to figure out how do we actually enable our teams with AI to deliver smarter to our clients, deliver better outcomes, create better experiences for our employees and for our developers internally on the team that I'm on. So that's a bit of a long origin, but I would say it's like all contextual to like how I got here. And the reason I shared is because if you're not in tech today, there's no better time to maybe start thinking about how do you leverage the existing tools to maybe solve problems differently. And almost every job is becoming a tech job with AI these days. So
Yeah, man. Well, it's funny. I have a little story I'm going to share with the audience. A couple of years ago, Justin and I were working together, and we were working with a client project. And it was funny because we were literally going, I think you were like leaving or going with Adi. And all I remember was like we were on the phone and we were talking about an idea. And like while you were in the car, you like built it. Like while you were in the car. And I was like, this guy is amazing. Like he just like made the thing. And that's the kind of guy Justin is. He's like a go get him, I'll figure it out kind of backwards hat type of guy, which is pretty cool. And you funneled that energy into building InfraCodebase, right? Maybe talk a little bit about what that is and kind of why you're doing it.
Yeah, so InfraCodebase started as a SaaS platform. And the idea was that we can help people design infrastructure visually and then generate code that delivers that to their cloud environments. And the goal was, can we bring together security architects, application architects, cloud architects, and platform engineers to go and solve problems together in a collaborative canvas like Miro and deliver infrastructure in a way that doesn't require them to know an ISE language. And so we had built a lot of technology to like scrape the web, collect data, augment it with our IP to create all this UI, all these forms and click and drag and drop kind of things. That's like a very, legacy experience. Over the last 2 months, we talked with customers about, hey, what do you want an engineering experience to look like? What are your challenges today with leveraging AI in your development teams? Like, what would the perfect thing be? Like, if you had it, you're like, I need this today. Like, do you have that? And what we learned is like people are really starting to expect more AI native ways of working. And so we realized we looked at our analytics, nobody's using the panels, nobody's filling out forms, nobody's clicking save. They went straight to the agent that we bolted onto our SaaS product and they were trying to leverage that to build their infrastructure. And so we said, maybe given everything that we've learned and through this year of development, all of the things that we've learned is like, we would love to have changed now that we have more information, like less microservices, more monolithic, like the right things for the technology stack as well. Why don't we rebuild AI native and go all in on this new way of working? And that's what we did. We were launching that on Monday, actually. So very excited to say
cool,
the new version of the product is coming out Monday. But think about it like Lovable, but for cloud engineering teams, where we've already got this way of building applications really fast. But then we want to also do the same thing for cloud infrastructure. And the other key part of that is that you can't do 0 to 80 for cloud infrastructure. You need security, you need guardrails, you need all these other things. And this is actually a key theme, I think, in AI is like AI can be kind of reckless if you don't have the right people at the seat kind of guiding it. So how do you mitigate the fact that maybe some people don't know what to tell AI to do? They don't have the context of your organization. They don't have the data and the experience. They don't have the tools and technology in their local machines to become a single scaled person, right? Yeah. How do you scale the entire team to have the same level of quality, security, and delivery across the stack? So that's what InfraCodebase is solving for cloud engineering teams.
Cool. Yeah, well, it's funny. Like it's been maybe a month or two since I've last looked at it. Mm-hmm. And I've seen a couple of your posts on LinkedIn where you showed like demos. And I saw like you've kind of like been teasing that like, hey, like, this is how we're going to do this thing. It's pretty cool, man. Honestly, like I'm very impressed. And part of what the old genesis of us talking on the podcast was this notion of what does engineering look like in this world, right? You've already kind of hit on a few things. And like, how does equipping and enabling your engineers with a great, set of tools and experience drive business value, drive customer value? Yeah,
I would say the only thing that's really different are the expectations and the ability to do things in a different way. And maybe and those expectations on both sides. Productivity from like your CFO, CTO, you have clients to deliver to, their expectations are changing, so your expectations are changing. Also, your developers' expectations are changing. Like, what tools do I have access to? What can I build? How frictionless is that environment? So I would say that today a lot of the technology is some of it's tools, but a lot of it's still the same old culture stuff. Like, people have to feel connected to the mission. They have to feel empowered and enabled, like, especially with AI. Like, you need to have a culture of encouragement, and like failure is a great thing. Like, Kevin is an amazing developer. He goes off and tries to do something that didn't work, but he leveraged AI to do it, and he learned a few things along the way, and we can embed that into the way that we now work. That's a huge win. Like it's all the same stuff on the developer experience side. It's just we have a new set of tools and a new set of pressures and expectations that are driving a different way of working. But ultimately, it's a lot the same. Philosophically, I would say the way I think about this has always been happy developers will create happy customers, and happy customers will create happy investors. And I say that sort of almost with a caveat as well, that if those developers are connected to your customer. Too many organizations are disconnected from their engineering is not connected to their customer. It's a lot of pass-throughs and they don't ever get the why. So you have to get the why to those developers and ideally get them right in front of those customers. But if you can build an ecosystem like that, and again, always been the case, you equip them with the right tools, you build the right culture, you're going to have an amazing company, you'll have amazing products, you'll have happy customers, and everybody's going to want to throw money at you to build something.
Yeah. You hit on a couple of things that I think are really important to highlight, which is what I call, or others call, change experience, right? Like there's this process of helping people kind of change and evolve their ways of working, their mindsets. And like that's honestly what I'm seeing in the market is like where a lot of AI stuff kind of falls apart is because it's not really like the capability or the technology. Because as you said, it's a tool, right? It's just another tool, like many tools. But like where things get kind of like broken is like the culture stuff, like it's the people stuff. It's the, I don't really know why we're doing this. I don't really want to change. I would rather just keep doing it the way that I've always done it. And it's kind of interesting to think about like, how do you inspire people to kind of adapt and evolve their ways of working? And, you know, you said something a little bit ago too, like how do you put the sort of guardrails in place that helps them avoid like breaking, you know, oh crap, all of our customer data now lives in like the public. Like we shouldn't have done that. I'm curious, you know, you've been advising a lot of companies over the last several years through this kind of like AI boom. What are some of the things that you kind of suggest to companies? Like, especially most of the folks listening are kind of mid-market, mid-size. So they're maybe not as sophisticated as like massive enterprise when it comes to tech. But like, what are the things that you're kind of saying like, hey, you should probably do these things. Like, these are the things you should probably think about or focus on to kind of make this better, to make it be adopted better.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing is literacy, to be honest with you. I think so much gets lost in miscommunication and misunderstanding of the technology and the words we're using when we say this word. What does that actually mean? Just starting out as an organization, like understanding when I talk about an agent, what is the actual definition of that? How is that different from an AI workflow? How's that different from a chat experience or from a knowledge assistant? Or I like to get too caught up in those things, but it's like when there's an actual engineering, there's a technical difference to the thing that you're describing. It's important to understand why you're saying the words that you're saying. So for example, like with agent, an agent should have the ability to autonomously take action and move from the desired state to the required state. If you're simply chatting with an LLM or even LLM with context, like in a knowledge assistant case, that's not an agent. But what happens a lot of times is you end up saying, hey, we got 250 agent use cases, like the solution searching for the problem. So my recommendation outside of the literacy side would be like really focus on the problems that you have. What are the areas in your business where you have the most friction? What are the areas that you have the most cost? Where do you have the most opportunity? Where's the true ROI? It's easy to throw millions of dollars at an AI thing that ultimately never even had that much return on it in the first place. Yeah. So do you really want to spend all this time and money just proving that the technology works, which we know it does? Or do you want to apply it towards something that's actually causing bad experiences for your internal employees, for your clients? Like where is the opportunity? Where is the friction? Where are the challenges? Invest in those places. Take that 250 row spreadsheet and throw it out and just really think about the business, really think about the clients, really think about your internal employees, and then find the right use case and really solve that one thing. Yep. And the other one, I guess the last one would be around like scale. So like I think a lot of companies are really struggling to scale AI. You can build a prototype. If you've done it, you can do it in a day. If you haven't done it, you can do it in a month, 2 months. Neither of those are wrong, by the way. It's just a journey. But I would say that you need to be thinking about how I'm actually going to put this in the hands of people at the end of the day. Where is it going to surface? What's the head for this agent? How are people going to interact with it? Is that in the flow of work that they're actually in? Any breakdown in any of those types of things can turn something that would otherwise be massively successful into a total failure that gets shelved and somebody decides not to continue to invest in. So you really have to, at the end of the day, as with any great product, think about the end customer, think about the end value, and invest in the places that make sense and don't invest in the places that it doesn't.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, everything you said is exactly what I said too. One thing that I've been thinking a lot about is this notion of like momentum, because I feel like everything you said, completely agree. Like people have to kind of know like what's possible. Like the literacy element is so important. And then like anchoring it to like business and customer value and like really focusing on that piece. But what's funny is like I've seen a couple different projects or like sort of AI initiatives get stalled because they're not able to really like get the momentum. You know what I mean? Meaning like show quick wins, quick value, get people excited, kind of help them understand like it's not this big scary thing. Like to get going, it doesn't require as much of a like lift as I think people think. One of the ones that a use case that keeps coming up is this whole, I'm calling it like talk to your data, talk to your docs thing, where it's essentially like, hey, like what if hypothetically you could just talk and then what you need is returned to you. And it's like in natural language and it's like cited and here's just, hey, look, I found this on this slide on this page and da-da-da. And like, here's this like summary of this email. Like that for folks like us who do a lot of AI things, it's kind of like super basic, but like that is often where like companies are like, they're just like, I can talk to my data. You're like, yeah, if you want, you could. And it's actually not as hard as you might think it is.
Yeah. It really depends on the industry, how and whose data. Like, is it client data?
Yeah.
Is it your data? Where does the data physically reside versus where your agent is actually going to run? I think there's actually a lot of engineering things that can trip you up in the process of like connecting to data to surface it into an agent, let alone kind of learning about agents and the way that it all works. I would just say like, start from first principles, treat it like any other application. The data exists somewhere. The application is going to exist somewhere. We know it's solvable. So now that we need to just go and experiment. And this goes back to that culture of experimentation and learning. I would say like focus more on prototypes early on. Don't feel like you have to go like sign up for a multi-million-dollar investment to solve some big problem right away. Like I would much rather actually do 10 small prototypes of similar types of use cases with different sets of data for different things that are all, if we're to be successful, be valuable, produce some ROI, and then say, wow, those two did really well. We're actually going to spend some time investing in those. And the other benefit you get from the mini prototype approach, more people at your company get more exposure to the actual technology and learn what the limitations of the technology are and then how to use it effectively. So you've kind of win-win on this one. You get more people with more experience, getting more exposure to technology, and you've got some use cases that actually are showing up as proof positive that, we can build something that inspires confidence. That confidence inspires investment. That investment creates the thing. And then that creates the value that ultimately returns the return on investment that you're looking for. So that's the way I would think about it.
Well, and I think that's a big part of how you get the momentum, like it's, if you kind of do those things to your point, like 10 small things to kind of help you start to get the wins, people start to, there's like a groundswell a little bit of like, whoa, this is working. Like, look at, Justin's over here using this and it actually like saved him 8 hours this week. Holy shit.
A funny trap is like you actually see, especially larger enterprises, sometimes you have more agent platforms than you have actual agents. And that's kind of hilarious because you end up spending a ton of money on all these platforms, but nobody's built anything yet. And so it's like, how do you also mitigate that as well? Like, because, but at the end of the day, like eventually kind of back to the DevX thing where like today you might have a single developer. His name's Kevin. Kevin is killer. He's like, he knows the company. He's been there a long time. He's one of the most experienced people on the team. He's a great developer, knows how to connect with MCPs, done a ton of like nighttime research into how to do all these things. He's doing an amazing job and everybody's happy with Kevin as a 100X developer on the team. Meanwhile, everybody else on the team is getting left behind because that knowledge isn't being transferred. It's not being shared. And it's also not the things that Kevin does that are almost proprietary to his process on his machine are not getting replicated across your entire organization. So I would say the other thing is like when you move out of prototype, when you move into scale and like figure out how you're going to help this is like kind of outside of like the delivering a product, but more of enablement of your developers is like, how do you help everybody to have access to the things they need and work in a similar way to produce similar results, regardless of if they knew that file was in this document storage location, that this was the process they were supposed to follow, or this is the security requirement that's non-negotiable. Like, how do you prevent anybody from making those types of mistakes? And like, that's why at InfraCodebase, we really see a lot of the value isn't just in generating code. That's very simple to do. Creating UIs around that create great experiences. It's easy to look at any AI native and say, okay, this is what makes me feel good. I want to replicate some of these types of things. Where it gets really valuable is when you start to say, I can take what Kevin does, I can embed that in a system that I push out to every developer, every cloud engineer on my team. And now everybody's working in the same exact way as Kevin. And all they need to know how to do is say, what do you want? Right. So that's, as you start to scale and think about systems, think about platforms and how you enable everybody, what is that scale lever? That's the dev side. It might look different in a different use case, but I would encourage you to think about that as well as you move forward.
Yeah. I always ask this question. Oh, it's always fun to hear people's responses. Like, who do you think is doing this well? What between the DevX world, as well as like the 100X engineer concept, and also just in general, making in your mind, the right investments or the right bets for where this is going.
And think about like what Cursor did. Cursor they forked an open source code editor And they were like, our moat is shipping as fast as possible. And they just ship maybe twice a day. I don't even know. Like every time I log into Cursor, there's an update button on the thing, right? And they launched early, they launched in mature, like they did all these things. So I think Cursor is a great example of a company that went AI native right from the beginning. They took existing known technologies and they embedded a novel technology into it with a very different experience as an AI native and turned that into a massively successful company almost overnight. So that's a great example. Lovable as an AI native as well has been something that's been amazing to watch their skyrocketing growth. The way that magical feeling, like this is what we want. We want to create experiences that give people this magical new, like, wow, isn't that amazing? So to be able to just like say some vague notional thing about what you want and then to have a thing that, let's not get into the technical details about the fact that actually there's a lot of things that need to be done there. At the same time though, it's like, but now I have a real thing to react to. I actually now, I don't like that button there, or I don't like the flow of that user journey. I'm sort of getting out of the world of all of this upfront work. I'm getting straight into the thing I want, and I can actually touch, and it's like clay. I'm molding clay in my hand, right? Yeah. And I think that's a very different experience from a development perspective. So Lovable's done a great job. Some legacy SaaS companies also are like working really hard to create great experiences that are built on AI. The Salesforce was very early with Agentforce and what they're trying to do to enable agents within their ecosystem. HubSpot has done a whole bunch to enable a lot of their services with AI that creates a lot less friction in the system, more automation in what they're doing. So these companies are all doing really great. I would say too, of course, the providers themselves, like Microsoft, what Anthropic has done with Claude Code has been absolutely amazing. But then also with their models, like coming out of left field and building something better than everybody else from a developer perspective. Google, like just like the amount of investment, capital investment in this infrastructure and this big bet in this novel technology has been absolutely. It's still mind blowing to watch because it's like, dude, when are you gonna get your money back? And so it's gonna come from somewhere, from us at some point. But I would say like it's the whole thing is like just been such an interesting thing to watch, everything from the disruption of SaaS to like the investment in these large tech companies and how SaaS companies are trying to adopt this technology in a way that actually makes sense and doesn't actually create worse experiences, not better ones.
So like a week or two ago, OpenAI's Dev Day, they announced Agent Kit and Apps SDK. And I've been talking a lot about this it's like literally just happened. And it's not new necessarily, but it's like, when ChatGPT has these things, it starts to make it more generally accepted as like normal, right? Or whatever, and paradigms start to change. So I'm very interested to hear your take on the notion of apps versus no apps and kind of moving into like an agent world. And like you talked a little bit, with me earlier about kind of what you think like, the last several years have been like the kind of theme for each one of those years, and then kind of where you think the next couple of years are going to go. Anyway, love to hear your thoughts.
I'll start with the last part first, and then I'll move into the other part next. So, 2023 was like the year of the models, a lot of investment, critical infrastructure and like research and development into like transformers and creating what was GPT 3.5 and then what came next that really showed the world like what was possible when you start to scale compute and you start to scale the training of these models at the scale of the knowledge of the internet. We heard a lot in 2023 about emergent capabilities, and we continued to hear that into 2024. You don't hear about emergent capabilities as much anymore, right? I think a lot of that was in the early stages of model dev. 24 was really about bringing that to people, surfacing applications with new experiences. How do we give this model to people in a way that makes sense for them to use and to be able to interact with? And so we can start to collect data and understand like what are the use cases for this technology. So there was that like adoption and that those like aha moments and those magical moments of ChatGPT the first time you asked it to like write a poem in the style of Shakespeare and all these types of things, right? Everybody's first prompt, they probably remember we're going to be talking about this when we're like old people, like, oh, what was your first prompt? I remember my first prompt and all these kinds of things. 25 has really been defined by agents. How do we create things that can take action within an ecosystem, and also sort of defined by protocols? Like how do we create interoperability between technologies? I can use models seamlessly with tools. I can swap tools between multiple different types of agents. I can orchestrate multiple agents together. These were huge themes this year, and like basically nobody's talking about like just LLMs or chats. They're talking about agents and like agentic experiences, which is really where a lot of this AI native like conversation comes from. I think 2026 we're starting to get a little bit more into like investment, some of the payoffs in these investments in infrastructure. We're going to see like massive investment. We're already seeing it now, but like in chips and electricity and data centers and all these things to scale AI. I think in part of that is going to be that AI is going to be not just so focused on development. I think people are using it to write emails and do basic things with docs, but I think that everybody's going to almost be like where developers are now in the next year, which is like everybody's using AI to help them solve any problem that they're basically doing at work, and they're expecting that to be in their flow of work. And so we're going to see a lot more of that integration of this technology into the places that you already work every single day. And another big theme over the next year, 2 years is going to be around integration and orchestration. So like today, there's a lot of agents. Those agents have trouble connecting to data, connecting to the ecosystem. So there's going to be a lot of effort in how do we make it simple for people to take agents connected to your organizational knowledge and data and tools and APIs, whatever it is, so that you have sort of a seamless like place where agents can sort of operate within the context of your company and your clients. Yeah, so I really see that's going to continue probably for the next 20 into 2030 as like improvement of these agents. The last thing would be is probably the missing piece is the interoperability of like the agents and the UI. So like today, basically every UI that's built for an agent is built around that agent. Whatever events that agent is streaming, the front end's going to pick it up. It's going to render UI components, and it's going to be that user experience. I think we probably will see further investment in the interoperability of agents to UIs. So like I could build a UI, you could build a UI. There are general purpose agents on the market. I could just literally point at that thing, and now it looks like my product. So I see a lot more of that coming out 26 as well. Like how do we actually solve some of those problems?
Yeah. No, I think I agree. Like I think the connecting all the things is like a big, I mean, this is me in my simple language. Like there's so much being built, but they're all kind of like independent of each other. And I think you're going to start to see all those things start to converge and connect so that you actually get more value. Because like part of the problem right now, and actually my team and I have been talking about this a lot lately, like a lot of these tools are built for like a person to use. It's not necessarily yet built for like teams. So like the collaboration, the sharing, the like I'm connecting to this thing and you're connecting to that thing, like it's not easy right now. Like only in like the last, I don't know, 2 months can you share a project in ChatGPT, which is like funny now. It's like, well, why wouldn't you have been able to share before, right? And like I remember like a year ago, we were like, why do we have separate projects and we can't share it together? Right? So I think like the whole idea of like things will start to connect and talk to each other, and teams will actually be able to use it together. Like collaboration will be more, easily accessible.
Exactly. That's how we're thinking about it at InfraCodebase when we're building our product. Is like we've started from agent first in the new version of the product, as well as teams first.
Yeah.
Like how do we actually scale Kevin to the entire organization? Right. And so that means creating like embedding your ways of working into the product. That means taking things that you already use today and integrating those with the agents that you use in our product. Yeah. For example, like if your company uses Wiz as a security product, you may want to just connect that as an integration using MCP into our product and have it actually call Wiz during the execution of the agent to do the things that you would normally go to Wiz to do. Yeah. So now it's a single pane of glass, every member of your team following the same governance, guardrails, and rules and workflows. And so now you've taken what Kevin did, you've created a place where it's required to kind of work in that way. And now everybody that interacts with the system is working like Kevin. And so you just took all of your onshore, your offshore, anybody that interacts with your system and gave them the same similar level of quality, the same workflow, and importantly, access to the same tools. Because like Kevin may have had those tools on his machine, but your other team members might not have known to connect them or had them. Now everybody on the team has access to the same exact capabilities within some governed context.
Yeah. Well, it kind of goes to the earlier point that I was poking on, which is like the apps versus no apps thing. Like I'll share like my thoughts, and I'd love to hear your opinion. Like I think that exactly what you just said, you're going to start to be like wherever you want to do your work, here, wherever, doesn't really matter if all of these things start to have MCP servers and the ability to kind of like connect, because you can be like, I want to do all my work in Slack. I don't want to have to go to your app and whatever. So it's just like hook it all up and boom, now I can do it. And you can take information from this, layer it all together and get like new and interesting insights and solve problems in different ways. I think it's going to be really interesting. Like we're doing a project right now where we're actually like with that announcement, we kind of like pivoted on our strategy a little bit, because we were like, instead of building this thing over here that you're going to make people come to, probably better to invest these dollars into like making it so that that thing can be accessed and talked to and engaged with wherever they work, wherever they want. Because do people really want to download another app? Maybe not. Like we'll see what the world does. But I think in my mind, it's starting to become more of this single pane of glass, and it's based on what you as a user prefer. Like, do you want to talk to us and do stuff in ChatGPT? Do you want to do it in Claude, Gemini? Do you want to do it in some other tool? Do you want to do it on your local machine? Whatever, right?
I think it depends on where people, what kind of work people are doing, and like kind of the number of tools and like how diverse the team is.
Yeah.
So if you have kind of a very consistent set of tools and delivery mechanisms and things like that, absolutely. Like if you're putting these things into Microsoft Word or into Teams or into Slack, like that's where people are already chatting. That's where they're already working. You should definitely be using those tools. Now I think, and I agree with you that it's a pane of glass in the flow of work, but the question is like, is it the one that already exists or the one that is going to exist that then brings everything together for people to use? For example, we would be considered the latter, but the idea is that security engineers are using their own tools. The architects are using Lucid and Draw.io. Your coders are using their IDE and VS Code and all these types of things. So in these diverse ecosystems with massive technology investments where you're not going to easily change the way of working with the existing tools, then how do you bring that stuff into a new single pane of glass that integrates all of the things that your team already does and leverages the best of all the investments you've already made? I think it's both, and it's probably going to depend on the diversity of the skill sets and the type of work the team does. But in any case, it's the same story. Is like there's going to be a place where people go to do work, and that place to do work is going to be where things get done.
And then it's going to be hooked up to all these different things.
Exactly. Orchestration is the year. 2026 is the year of integration and orchestration with agents.
Have you used, I'm sure you have, like Notion and ClickUp are doing a pretty decent job of this now. Like they've got like sort of their connector marketplace, which I mean, a lot of these tools are doing this now, but it's like, look, you can kind of like hook into any of these like 50 tools, and then you can just engage here and it's all kind of available to you. So, hey, you want to talk to your Google Drive, you want to, ping this thing to Slack, you want to do this on Teams, you want to like jump into Zoom, like it's all in one place. Yeah, I think you're right. Like, whether it's an existing pane of glass or a new pane of glass, it'll be really fascinating to watch. I think you're right that probably like people's mental model and their ways of working kind of ingrained in their brain. People are probably the hardest part of this, right? So it's like, if they're like, I want to do it here, be like, sure, you can do it there. So, based on your role and your responsibilities and your preferences, like you might engage with all the things on this pane of glass versus like others might engage on this pane of glass. Well, cool, man. I'd love to hear your thoughts on like people who listen to the show often are like product marketing, business leaders. I'm guessing that some of them are probably like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So like, I think like maybe we bring it down to like, make it practical, right? Like what are some things that you think folks should be thinking about investing in for 26 as we're kind of entering the last, couple months of the year, and there is kind of this orchestration thing on the horizon. Like, what should people be doing now to prepare for that?
I think you should focus on culture. If you haven't got your culture solved, then you're always going to struggle to adopt any of this stuff. I would start with your people and creating an environment that's going to make them successful. And part of that environment is going to be tooling. And so how do you help your teams to adopt those tools? And then how do you give them places to fail safely, to work together, like to share what they're learning? I think I see a lot of fallacies in this tool is used for this business process, and this tool is that we use that for this, and this is financial services. And ultimately, I don't think that much of that matters. I think more of it is like everything is changing so fast and everything's so experimental that what's better is to actually put all of the people who are using the things into one place to talk to each other and say, this is what worked for me. This is how I'm adopting AI in my day-to-day work. What do you think about that? How are you doing it? Oh, that's interesting. You're like working on that a little bit differently. I might want to try that. Like, so how do you create a community of engagement and enablement that lets people, gives them a forum to share like what it is that they're learning so that everybody is kind of lifted up? Because if you haven't solved the enablement, you haven't solved the culture, you haven't solved just basically turning things on for people so that they can start to know what the future is going to be like, then start in those types of investments. Don't jump straight into like, we're going to build an agentic application that's going to like change the world or our company or our client's experience. Like, start with your people, make the people part really great. And if you make your people great, they're going to make your company great. So that's my point of view on it. Because all this is transferable, like the idea of prompting and using tools. And that's just, you are like the orchestrator first.
Yeah.
The agent becomes the thing that you automate into that process. So yeah, anyway, so those are my practical tips is like start with people, start with culture, start with enablement of tools, and then give them a place to talk about it.
Yeah. I think all of that kind of ladders up to what we were talking about earlier, which is like this notion of momentum. Like folks, I have a lot of conversations every day with folks that are like, what do I do? Like, where do I get, I'm just like, just start. Like, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? Like you got to just kind of start doing the thing and start, step one, just like hook two things together, like take this thing and boom. And then like value, and then like just keep building on that and start showing people what's possible within your organization, within your team. I think one of the things that I often recommend is creating space, like white space. Say, okay, hey, we're going to take 30 minutes out of our week or an hour or whatever to just like, to your point, talk about this and like test some things and try some things and trial out some stuff. And you can do it in kind of like a sandbox where you're not touching your stuff, you're not hooking it up to your data, you're not going to like whatever. I think the mental models are going to have to shift, right? To your point, there's a culture and mindset change that has to occur. And once people start to kind of wrap their heads around like, oh, yeah, wait a second, I can do this now? And you're like, yeah, like it's pretty powerful. Even, I mean, honestly, like folks like us, we're like finger on the pulse. We're watching everything. We're like testing everything. People who maybe tried GPT 2 years ago for the like write a poem in the style of Shakespeare, right? Like you said, and maybe done a little bit of like, find me a recipe for how to make chicken pot pie or whatever. Like, it's kind of like a lot of folks still are in that, like, this is what it can do. It's kind of like a better Google search.
Yeah.
And when you start to show things like in the Gemini, or like Google AI Studio suite, it's like, hey, have you seen Notebook LM? Like, you pull it up and you show them and you're like, you can make a podcast. And they're like, what? And you're like, it's pretty crazy, right? And they're like, oh my God, this is wild. And then similarly, like if you go in, like I'm continually surprised by the amount of people that don't know, like in ChatGPT, if you hit the little plus button and it's like, bloop, and you can pick like deep research, agent mode, web search, like all these things. They're like, wait, what?
Yeah, and even Agent Kit, 6 months from now, people are going to be surprised that there's a way to create AI workflows inside of ChatGPT. That'll be a thing.
Yeah. Which, side note, they make that surprisingly hard to find.
Yeah.
Like you have to click down like you have to go to like the OpenAI platform, and then you have to like go to their like little wiki, and then there's a link and and you're like, man, they are not making it easy. Like, I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I think back to your original point, I think 100% people are where you should start. And you should focus on momentum for sure.
And the easiest way to do that is empathy, I think. Like really just put yourself in the shoe of the person that you're trying to like make their life better. Where is their friction? Where are their struggles? Is there anything you can do to incrementally, like you're not going to solve all the world's problems in a day, but like incrementally, what's the thing you can do today to like help them? And like that is the other way too. Like leaders should be empathetic to like the people that they're leading. If you're an engineering leader, that might be developers or whoever you are. But also as developers, I think we have to be empathetic to the pressure that our leaders are under to bring some of this technology, because we're going to feel tension. We're going to feel pressure to do things, and it may feel very uncomfortable, because all change is uncomfortable. It'd just be like, oh, you're just trying to force AI down my throat or these things in maybe some cases, but at the same time, we can all be empathetic with each other and kind of understand that we have pressures and experiences, and like how do we support each other in being successful, so that it's more of a mutually where we care about each other. We're trying to solve the same problem. It's just we have different issues.
Yeah. All right. I've got one last question. It's like a bonus round.
Perfect.
I didn't prepare you for it.
Good.
I'm very curious to hear a hot take on AI that might be a little spicy, might be something that people will be like, what? Like eyebrow raise.
I don't know if it's an eyebrow raise, but I think AI, don't underestimate the difference between legacy SaaS and AI native. Having gone through a similar transition ourselves, it's a very different mindset, a very different way to build, an entirely different set of incentives. And so I think that there's a huge opportunity right now for companies starting fresh who are going to go AI native to really compete in like big markets. Maybe the hot take there too is don't feel like because there's a saturated market in an existing space that there's no room for you to come and play AI native with it, because the way that you build those experiences and the way that you align those incentives with those customers is so different. And when you see those magical moments with people, showing them something that does something that they are used to doing, but in a totally different way, those moments of just joy with people seeing how they're using your product in this new way opens up a lot of opportunities. My hot take is, like SaaS isn't safe. You shouldn't not enter a market because it's got a lot of stuff in it. Just to your point, it's momentum. Start building. Yep. Don't wait around or like feel like you have to have the perfect thing to get started. Like, find a real problem. It's always been the same. Find a real problem to solve.
Solve it.
And actually solve the problem. Yeah, and if you want to try to see if you can shake it up, go AI native and see what that looks like. Yeah. Worst case scenario, you'll fail and you're going to learn a lot.
Yeah, love it. Well, cool, man. This was awesome conversation, as I expected.
Always good with you.
Yeah, man. No, it's good. It's good. Where can folks find you online?
Yeah, sure. I mean, you can search Onward Platforms on LinkedIn, or you can go to InfraCodebase.com. That's our flagship product. It's the one I've been talking about here. If you're a cloud engineering team and you're looking to change the way that your entire team works together with enterprise guardrails to get you to 0 to 100 using modern IAC practices to deliver cloud infrastructure, you should definitely check out what we're building because it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Cool. And folks, you can find me online, Drew H. Burdick, pretty much all social channels, and drewburdick.com. Thanks, man. Really appreciate you being on the show.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah, bud.
Yeah.
See ya.
See ya.
Like, comment, and subscribe.